everyone! Happy New Year! Can I still say Happy New Year even though we're 2/3 of the way through January? I don't know, but I'm going to say it anyway. Glad to be back. Glad to be back making videos. I have been super busy since the holidays all the way until now. A lot of stuff has changed. A lot of stuff has happened that has kept me off this channel. Even doing an irregular schedule and an infrequent schedule, it's been hard to find time to do this. A couple of big things. So I'm engaged. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to get married. That's awesome. So 2022 is already looking up for me. And, my fiance and I, we went to Las Vegas for the holidays, for New Year's specifically. And I had a lot of fun there. I'd never been to Vegas before, so it was a lot of fun. Did a lot of cool things. I got to see Penn and Teller. I got to visit with her family a little bit, which was also great to see. It was the first time we got to speak to any of them after the engagement, so it was nice to spend a lot of time with them and get used to my soon-to-be extended family and my in-laws and everything like that. They're all very nice and very supportive. Got to play the slots, do a little bit of the casino work, did not win anything, did not do well at all. I did really well one night where I ended up being $100 up. And then the next night we went to the casino, I lost it all, and it was just, Vegas cleaned me out, shall we say. And, got to eat a lot of good food. Went to Hell's Kitchen in Vegas, which was cool. They don't film the show there, or they didn't film the show there, but it's the restaurant is inspired by the show, and it looks like the show, so it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I kind of like it. It's nice to see Gordon Ramsay's face everywhere when you go into a restaurant. Expensive, but it was worth the trip, and probably my favorite meal that I had while I was in Vegas that whole week. And had some drama at the airport with our flight home getting canceled, but it ended up being okay. What wasn't okay was me getting a paper cut on the tag on my bag and bleeding all over the place and running around the airport looking for a Band-Aid. That wasn't fun. What also wasn't fun was the airport sending our bags, because our flight was canceled, they sent our bags on a different flight. So we get home and our bags aren't there waiting for us, so we have to wait until the next day to come back to the airport and get our bags. I'm like, this is tedious and annoying, but, one thing I've learned about myself, I don't mind flying. I actually kind of like flying. I can't stand airports. I fucking hate airports. They are the absolute worst. But other than that, I had a wonderful time, and now I am an engaged man, soon to be a married man, sometime later. We haven't set an official date yet, but we're shooting for the end of 2020, or end of 2022. I don't know. It feels like 2020 never ended, what with the pandemic and everything, although maybe things will change this year. We'll see. I have my doubts, given the way our government runs things. But in any case, so that's kind of the craziness that's going on in my life right now. I also have my big project that I'm working on, kind of behind the scenes, which is, I can say that Stage 1 is almost done. That's what I can say in regards to that. I'm not going to announce anything or give any kind of specifics until all my ducks are in a row, but Stage 1 of this thing is almost done, so that's good to know. And hopefully, if everything goes the way I want it to, I'll be able to tell you guys about it and come on here and give updates regarding said project. But this is predominantly a wrestling channel, but before I get into the wrestling talk, I do want to talk about some video ideas and projects that I talked about last year that I was going to do this year. Still going to do them. One of them being the WWE, WWF pay-per-view reviews for all of the 2000 pay-per-views. I'm in the process of watching those. I'm 4 shows in, so I've just last night I finished watching Backlash. Excuse me. Got done watching that, and I think I can probably knock out part 1 either late January, like later this month or sometime early February, which will cover the first 3 or 4 shows. I haven't decided how I'm going to break it out yet, but I do know from reviewing all of the 97 WCW pay-per-views in one video, I was like, okay, that's exhausting. Don't do that again. Just split it up and do it in sections, and I could probably do 3 or 4 shows per video and review them all. And it's it's so far it's actually a lot of fun going back and watching that time period. It's like, man, remember when this shit was exciting? Those were the days. I have a couple other video ideas. I don't want to say exactly what they are, but a couple of non-wrestling video ideas One series in particular that I'm thinking about doing that has nothing to do so much with entertainment, movies, or TV, but more to do with living life on the internet, shall we say, and that's all I'll say about that. But it's an idea for videos that I'm tinkering around with, and hopefully I can get to post that sometime this year. And also, my Batman videos, covering Batman the Animated Series and doing my little tributes to that. That is the one thing that I have made absolutely no progress on because I just haven't, I haven't quite mapped out exactly how I'm going to do it because I want to do something that no one else has done because I know that top 10 videos have been done for this show. It's arguably the greatest animated series of all time. It's certainly in the top 5, so a lot of people have talked about it. There's, I know over at Channel Awesome, they do like the Batman thing where they review one episode a day throughout the entire month. So I'm trying to like tackle it in a way that's not completely derivative of what other people have done, and I think I have a good pathway to doing that, but I haven't like actually started working on the videos yet. So that's something that you'll be seeing sometime later in 2022. I can't nail it down exactly, but couple of other things on the wrestling front. I think I've covered all the channel updates. But in regards to the modern state of professional wrestling, I watched Wrestle Kingdom, at least nights 1 and 2. I did not watch night 3 because that was the New Japan versus Noah show, and it was like, it's nothing but tag matches. It's almost entirely tag matches. And I was like, I wasn't interested in that anyway. The main event looked interesting because it's Tanahashi and Okada teaming up against the Great Muta. In a match, is like I might go back and watch that match, but other than that, I have no interest in watching a whole show of nothing but tag matches. But nights 1 and 2 of Wrestle Kingdom, I have to say, easily the worst Wrestle Kingdom we've gotten since I started watching Wrestle Kingdom. And I started, if you followed my channel for any length of time, you probably remember back at the time of Wrestle Kingdom 9. That was the first Wrestle Kingdom I ever watched in its entirety because it was offered on American pay-per-view. And it was my first exposure to, like, the Tokyo Dome show. I mean, other than that, prior to that, I had watched it in, like, bits and pieces, a match here or there. TNA did the Global Impact show back in 2007, I think, so I got the TNA portion of that particular Tokyo Dome show. But Wrestle Kingdom 9 was my first real exposure to the big Tokyo Dome show from New Japan, and I was blown away by it. I was like, man, this was awesome. I loved it. And over time, Wrestle Kingdom has become like the new WrestleMania for me, where I look forward to it every year. And I think back to like the Jericho Omega one, and like the Okada Omega main event, Wrestle Kingdom, Nakamura versus AJ, that great match they had right before they left, and all these other great matches that they've had throughout the course of Wrestle Kingdom. This show, and it's a 2-night event, which they started doing the year that Liger retired, and they made Liger's retirement like a major selling point of those shows. Again, another great moment from Wrestle Kingdom. There was something lacking about these two shows, and nights 1 and 2, and I don't know if it's like the lack of star power, because it's like they've had trouble filling the voids left behind by some of the stars that have left. I mean, Okada's still there, Tanahashi's still there, but Tanahashi's act is kind of worn thin. And Naito's still there, but they didn't have Naito do anything that interesting. He just had a couple of matches, and kind of just, I don't want to say throwaway matches, but they didn't really wow me all that much. They've got Will Osprey, who's great. They've got Zack Sabre Jr., but they had him in tag matches, and I think that really undercuts what Zack Sabre Jr. is really good at, which is having really good singles technical matches. And I think when you put him in tag matches, it kind of undercuts what he's capable of doing. Now, I'm not going to go through every single match on both shows because it's like we're a few weeks removed from it, but I can say that like I like the Show and Yo grudge match as an opener. I think that was a Wrestle Kingdom worthy grudge match to have. It was cool to see Shibata wrestle again, even though the match itself wasn't like that spectacular or anything. It was nice to see him back in the ring and getting his feet wet, getting back in there. The Shingo versus Okada match from night 1 for the title was pretty good. Solid main event. But other than that, like, it just kind of felt like, whatever. It was kind of just a show. And there's nothing spectacularly bad about it, but there was nothing that I loved about it either. Evil won the never openweight title from Ishii, and I continue to say this about Evil. He's a guy that keeps getting pushes, keeps getting titles, and I just don't see anything in him at all whatsoever. It's not a case of like, because he's a former IWGP champion, which is insane to me. And he's not bad. There's just nothing about him that stands out. He doesn't have a great look. He's not an exceptional worker compared to some of the other guys that have come up the New Japan pike. He doesn't have like that great of a character. He's just a guy, and he's just a body, and it's every time he gets a title, every time he gets a push, I go, but why though? He's not that spectacular. Looking ahead to night 2, we did get Naito versus Jeff Cobb, which was a solid match, but it didn't feel like a glorious match for Naito, who had been one of the big Wrestle Kingdom main eventers in the last few years. And then, I'm looking up and down. I think probably one of the more spectacular matches was the Stardom tag match, because women's wrestling has not been featured in any of the Wrestle Kingdoms that have been around since I started watching. So it actually had like kind of an attraction there that was something a little bit new and a little bit more exciting, which is, the rest of the show barely had anything like that. It felt like to me. Tanahashi and Kenta, except for the crazy finish that fucked up Kenta beyond belief, which is kind of a normal hardcore match. And the main event was really good. Okada versus Osprey. I wouldn't put it up there as one of the better Wrestle Kingdom main events, like Okada and Naito, or Okada and Omega, or the Okada Tanahashi matches, but it was still a really good match on a 2-night show that didn't really blow my socks off. It was nice to at least get that match. So I did enjoy that. So Wrestle Kingdom, I don't know, it left me feeling empty this year, and that's the first time I've really felt that way about Wrestle Kingdom. And granted, I had not been watching New Japan regularly since the pandemic started. Once the pandemic started, it like completely, my wrestling watching habits just kind of flew out the window. Like MLW I dropped, NWA I dropped, ROH, because a lot of them took breaks. So it was just a lot of my wrestling habits just kind of flew out the window. And New Japan was one of those casualties. So, I did watch last year's Wrestle Kingdom, and I enjoyed that show. So I don't know what happened in the year in between. But in any case, it was not a spectacular show, and easily the weakest Wrestle Kingdom since I started watching from 9 onward. Easily the most disappointed I've been, which is unfortunate, because I really liked, Wrestle Kingdom has always been a major highlight for me, and it's sad that this year, for whatever reason, it just didn't deliver. So, with that said, let's talk about the status of AEW and what they're doing creatively, which is, again, kind of like what I've been saying my last few videos, couple highs, couple lows, and they're making some mistakes that I feel like are avoidable, but they're not avoiding those mistakes, and I don't know why. Like, I am so goddamn sick and tired of Orange Cassidy and Adam Cole's feud already. I feel like I've watched them wrestle each other 10 times. And it's probably only like 3 or 4, but I feel like I've seen it and I'm done with it. And they're doing the Lights Out match next week, and it's like, dude, this feud is nowhere near being worthy of a Lights Out match. I do like that they incorporated Britt Baker in with Adam Cole and the Elite. I feel like that's a move they needed to make, to kind of acknowledge that they're a couple on TV. They've kind of like hinted at it and alluded to it, but unless you're a dork like me, you don't know that they're dating in real life. So it's like, all right, let's make it part of the story, and it puts Britt in a more high-profile position, which she deserves. But this thing with Orange Cassidy, it's got to stop, because I've seen the match too many times, and I'm just tired of it at this point. So hopefully next week it's over. A lot of returns have been happening lately, like Lance Archer's back, which is cool to see. Although it's like, it feels like he's just being positioned to work with Hangman because Hangman has to work with somebody. And it's one of those kind of like, well, he needs a first challenger, so let's just throw Lance Archer out there. Which is not the worst option. I like Lance a lot, but he'd been off TV for so long, and now he's back immediately into the title picture, which feels a little rushed. Whereas ideally you would want a guy who'd been built up over the course of a few months, and then once Hangman wins the title, you set up Archer to be the guy to be his first challenger after being better established and given some momentum for a lengthy period of time, and that didn't happen. Pac is coming back following his skirmish with Malachi Black. Brody Lee has debuted and formed a tag team with Malachi Black, the House of Black. Not the worst thing in the world, and it's like pretty, big guy, different kind of body type for AEW, so it's good to see that. John Moxley came back and dropped an F-bomb live on TV, which, okay, sure. Great to have Moxley back, but like I said, it's like he kind of got lost in the shuffle of like all these other returns that are taking place. Cody just came back after testing positive for COVID and cut like the most rambling, incoherent nonsense promo I think I've ever heard from him, where it's like he started strong and I get where it ended up was okay, but somewhere in the middle he's just rambling, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? And it was kind of like, and a lot of people are comparing Cody to Triple H. He's the Triple H of AEW. I compare him to John Cena, and that's kind of what he's become, where it's like, he's the guy that's going to be the babyface whether you like it or not, and it's a mindset I don't understand. I think you go against the grain when you do, and you breed, like, resentment when you do that. It's like, dude, the fans don't like him. Just turn him heel. And by the way, Cody Rhodes, amazing heel. He's been an amazing heel. So I don't know why there's this. Now, if this is all part of a long game to like turn Cody into the ultimate mega heel, it's brilliant. But for right now, it's just annoying, and it's like it makes me not want to watch Cody Rhodes because it's just awkward every time he's on TV, unfortunately. But he's going to be having a ladder match with Sammy Guevara next week because Sammy won the interim TNT championship in Cody's absence. And I'm wondering, it's like, why don't they just save the ladder match for pay-per-view? Again, why are they putting all this stuff on this show next week that's had barely any build-up? It's like, dude, save it for the pay-per-view, dude. And again, I don't know what their plan for the pay-per-view is, but I think like a ladder match to determine who the true champion title holder is. I mean, it won't be as good as Razor and Shawn from '94, but it's like it's better than just cramming 19 bodies into a ladder match and letting them do flips and dives and make it a car wreck. You actually have like a legitimate like controversy and story that needs to be resolved that goes along with it. So that's like kind of neat. But right now in AEW, the best thing that's going right now is the MJF CM Punk stuff, which is made good entirely through MJF playing the heel that constantly avoids the ass kicking and always gets out of Punk's clutches. And with that, it's like that's classic old school booking to build anticipation for their eventual showdown, where Punk will finally get his hands on him and beat the crap out of that little turd. It's basic wrestling storytelling that works, and it's the best thing in AEW right now. And it really shows just how good MJF really is. His promos that he can go up there against a CM Punk and honestly look like the better performer of the two. Between them and Punk, I liked the match he had with Wardlow last week. I thought that was a good piece of booking. Doing a repeat of the finish to Survivor Series 1995, I thought was pretty cool with Wardlow, and Wardlow's getting character development along the way because it's kind of like this Virgil DiBiase situation where you're waiting for Wardlow to turn on MJF and get that story going. Is he going to do it during the match with Punk and cost MJF the match with Punk? And I'm like, what are they going to do with this? So. We've got that down the road, and it's very interesting to see that story play out as well. So, yeah, MJF and Punk, obviously, best thing on the show right now. AEW, like, if I was going to assign it a letter grade, I'd probably give it, like, a C, maybe a B-. But it's like, there's these mistakes that they're making that, like I said last year, it's like, guys, these are easily avoidable mistakes. Like, it's anybody with a red pen going over the format could fix some of these things, and they don't do it. Again, to give another bit of praise to the Punk-MJF feud, I love that Punk caused MJF to get disqualified. I thought that was a great way to kind of add more fuel to the fire and actually get a disqualification win on AEW programming on a show that's like kind of most of their matches turned into absolute free-for-alls, but that was a good piece of wrestling storytelling. And normally, like, I look at something like that going so well, and then I look at Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy, where they went like the WWE route, where they just have rematch after rematch after rematch after rematch to the point where I'm just sick of seeing it. That's not good, and I don't know like how they don't recognize it. But one thing I will say, I did enjoy this week's main event to Dynamite. Sting, old man Sting, getting to look cool and fun as always. And I think the partnership with Darby has been great for Darby too, because he gets to rub off a Sting a little bit. It makes me wonder, are they going to go for the tag titles at some point? Because that would be interesting to see. And I'll say this, I like the Acclaimed a lot. I feel like them having the rug pulled out from under them when they cut that offensive promo on Dark really halted their momentum. And now it's like when Caster comes out and does the raps, they're not as savage as they were before the offensive promo came around for Dark. And it's like, first of all, I didn't find it offensive at all. I thought it was like a great piece of like, yeah, he's a heel getting heat and he's an asshole. I personally didn't, I mean, if that, he could have cut that same promo in the Attitude Era and nobody would have batted an eyelash. Or let me put it, because Simone Biles wasn't a figure back then. If we had the same sensibilities today that we had back in the late 90s, that promo would have happened and nobody would have said a word. But because we live in overly sensitive Hugbox land, that caused a lot of problems. And I seem to be one of the only ones that was sitting there going, like, he's a heel cutting diss raps on people. That's the bit. That's the gimmick. And unfortunately, I think it kind of halted his momentum and the team's momentum as a whole when they did that. And now it's like a lot of their raps don't have the same bite to it that they did before because I think they have a microscope on them now, unfortunately. And it's a shame because they had a really good thing going there for a while. But at least they got a main event with Sting out of it. So there is that. So what else is there to talk about in the world of professional wrestling? Well, the Royal Rumble's coming up. And I'm actually going to watch it. It's the Royal Rumble. It's happening next week. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you know what? I'll check it out. And for one match that I want to watch, when I heard that they were doing this, when I heard that Lesnar won the title, the WWE title, because Roman Reigns got COVID, they did a little switcheroo on the Day 1 pay-per-view that I didn't watch. The first match that they've set up for Lesnar is a battle with Bobby Lashley. And it's like, okay, that's kind of cool because it's Brock Lesnar going up against a guy who can also believably beat the shit out of him in a Bobby Lashley, who has some of that like MMA shoot fighting cred that Lesnar has. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. I kind of want to check that out. I haven't seen any of the build-up to it, so I don't know how the build-up's been. When I heard they were doing that match, I'm like, I kind of want to see a two bulls in a china shop type of match between two guys that are believably badass. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm kind of I like it. It's like, you know what? I'm going to watch the Royal Rumble just for that match because the WWE is giving me something that piqued my interest. And it's like, you know what? I will reward giving me something that I want. So it's like, okay, I'll watch Lesnar and Lashley because Lesnar and Big E doesn't appeal to me at all because I just kind of view Big E as a cartoon character. And it's like, yeah, he's a big jacked up dude, but he looks like, I think I've made the comment before, he looks like a He-Man action figure. And I mean that as like everything on him just looks completely exaggerated to the point of being cartoonish. Whereas Lashley looks like a legit badass that could fuck you up royal. And I think that's a better fit for someone like Lesnar. That's my take. But, of course, Lesnar's looking like a hobo right now, like a homeless person. Like, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? What is up with that look, man? What have you been doing during the pandemic? But anyway, I'll check out that match for sure. I've got the card pulled up here. We can see. We've got Roman Reigns versus Seth freaking Rollins for the Universal title. Have they, like, I remember reading this a few weeks back. Have they, like, really rebranded him as Seth freaking Rollins? Okay. And let me tell you, if there's a match I don't want to see again, it's Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins because I've seen it, like, 400 times. So, no thank you. We have a mixed tag team match. I've seen the pictures of Edge and Beth in their getup, but it's Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Miz and Maurice, the battle of the power couples, I guess you can call it, the married couple. So it's like, all right, that might be cute. For the Raw Women's title, we've got Becky Lynch taking on Doudrop, that Piper Niven chick from the Mae Young Classic, I remember. So it's like, I don't know what Becky's even doing these days. I haven't followed it. Again, I've followed up with so little of WWE programming that I couldn't even tell you if Becky Lynch is a heel or a face. I think she's heel, based on last I heard, but I don't know what's going on right now. So, again, that's a complete mystery to me. I couldn't tell you. All I know is that they're doing Lesnar and Lashley, and that's the match I want to see. So I'm like, all right, you know what, I'll check it out. And I know about the Forbidden Door stuff going on with the Royal Rumble building speculation for outside talents to be in one of the two Rumble matches. The biggest one that kind of got people's attention was Mickie James, who's the current Impact Women's Champion, being an entrant in the Royal Rumble. So, I mean, I don't know if that's... Some people were speculating that people from AEW were going to jump and be in the Royal Rumble or something like that. I don't know if it's going to be anything that crazy. But we'll see. It's like, hey, good for Mickie. She's getting a payday. I don't mind that. Let me look at the list of participants. All right, so for the Women's Rumble so far, we've got Rhea Ripley, Nikki Ash, Dana Brooke, Carmella, Queen Zelina. How long has she been a queen? Did she win the Queen of the Ring or something like that? Again, I haven't followed programming. I don't know. Tamina, Shotzi. Do they not call her Shotzi Blackheart anymore? Shotzi Blackheart's a pretty cool name. I don't know why they would shorten it to just Shotzi, but okay. Natalia, Aaliyah, Naomi, Shayna Baszler, Charlotte Flair, Nikki Bella, Brie Bella, Lita, Michelle McCool, Kelly, oh my god, Kelly, Summer Rae, Mickie James, who I mentioned, Bianca Belair, and Liv Morgan. So those are the women's participants. And the men's participants so far are Angelo Dawkins, Montez Ford, Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, Austin Theory. I didn't know he was on the main roster. Johnny Knoxville of Jackass fame, because they got to sell that movie. Are they up to like is this the fourth Jackass movie or the fifth one? I don't know. I haven't watched any of them, so I don't know. Jackass was never my cup of tea. Sheamus, who, holy shit, how long has Sheamus been in the WWE? Like, since, like, 08, 09, right? It's amazing. It's like, man, he's been around forever. Damian Priest, AJ Styles, Big E, Happy Corbin. They're still trying with him, aren't they? Oh, boy. Madcap Moss. I don't know who that is. Sami Zayn, Kofi Kingston, and Kevin Owens. So those are the men's Rumbles entrants. Wow, the Rumbles look pretty... I don't know, like, the women's one looks like it's relying on a bunch of outsiders, like the Bellas, Lita, Michelle, Kelly, Summer Rae, Mickie James, and the men's one just looks kind of tragic. It's like, ooh, I don't know who wins. Of the list that I'm looking at right now, I'd be like, I mean, is AJ gonna win? Because I'm not seeing maybe Big E. I don't know. Looking at that list, of course, I don't know who's even being pushed right now. So I'm basically an outsider when it comes to WWE. So we'll see how this all plays out. So before I sign up, just letting you all know, I am watching the Royal Rumble. I'm going to check it out. Might do a review of it. We'll see how that goes. But I think that's enough of the wrestling talk. Let's go into football. Playoff season is going on right now. We had a wild card weekend with mostly... most of them were one-sided kills. I mean, a lot of those games were, like, just massacres. Some of them not very surprising, and I guess I'll talk about the new playoff system that we're seeing unfold this year. And with the extra week of regular season games, they've added a week 18, which I'm not a huge fan of because I think it's just overextending itself and just having extra games for the sake of making more money and not because it makes the game any better. It's just having an extra week for the sake of having an extra week. And the new playoff brackets where they add 2 additional wildcard teams, so you get 6 games wildcard weekend, only one team, the number 1 seed, gets a bye for each conference. And then everything kind of plays out in the typical tournament style from there. And there are a couple things I like about it and a couple things I don't. One, I like that only the number 1 seed gets the bye in this setup. So it's like, all right, it makes that first round bye more of a coveted spot and harder to get. So that's kind of appealing to me. I do like that. And I kind of like, I mean, having 6 games wildcard weekend is actually like, it's kind of cool. And I liked having a game on Monday night. It's like, we have a playoff game on Monday night. That's pretty cool. So there's a couple things I kind of like about it, but I'm not a huge fan of the extra wildcard teams because I think those spots went to 2 teams that had no business being in the playoffs. The Eagles did not belong in the playoffs, and they played accordingly. the Pittsburgh Steelers did not belong in the playoffs, and they played accordingly, getting killed by the much better teams. And it's like, all right, you're taking inferior teams that have no business being in the playoffs, and you're giving them playoff spots because somebody has to be in those spots. The math has worked out that they have to be in those spots. To me, it's kind of silly. And what I was hoping they would fix, instead of like completely changing the playoff system, I would have probably done something where if a divisional championship team, or the winner of the division, has a below 500 record, then their playoff spot goes to another wild card that has a better record. I remember when, and maybe this is sour grapes on my part, I remember when the Seattle Seahawks went 7-9 and won the division. And yes, they won a playoff game, credit to them. They got to host a playoff game, which is ridiculous with a 7-9 record. That same season, my Giants went 10-6. That was the infamous Deshaun Jackson game where we blew a 20, what was it? They scored, the Eagles scored 28 points on us in the last 8 minutes. The most absurd thing I've ever watched. But really because of that game, the Giants ended up missing the playoffs, even though we had a 10-6 record. And it's like, wait a minute. So the Seattle Seahawks are 7-9, win a division, get to host a playoff game. We're 10-6, and we're just told to fuck off. And the situation I'm lining up is extremely rare. But it's also the fact that it can happen. It's I feel like that's something that can be fixed with, because I don't think a divisional champion should be hosting a playoff game if their record is 6-10 or 7-9. And that's kind of silly, at least to me. I don't know. So I was hoping they'd address that. They did, and they just added more wild card teams. And to me, it adds teams to the playoffs that don't deserve to be there. But in any case, it's playoff season is exciting. I guess I could be that jerk and poke fun at the Dallas Cowboys for the spectacular defeat that they suffered. That was the most dramatic game of the weekend, easily. Easily the most dramatic. When you look at the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots, that was okay, I knew Buffalo was going to win. I had no idea it was going to be that bad. Tampa Bay, I knew they were going to beat the Eagles, and I knew they were going to do it fairly convincingly. Kansas City, I knew they were going to win. The only games that were kind of up in the air were Raiders and Bengals, which I felt bad for the Raiders, because after the tumultuous season they've had, for them to make the playoffs after that amazing game against the Chargers, which may have been the game of the year, they kind of became my sentimental favorites, and when they didn't make it, I was a little disappointed. But it's just right at the end they had it, and they just couldn't make the comeback at the end. It was a shame, but But Dallas and San Francisco, that was the other close game. And I was like, okay, I actually picked Dallas to win that game, honestly. Even though San Francisco had been playing well, I just felt like in their home stadium, Dallas is going to have an advantage. But I guess home advantage doesn't really mean a whole hell of a lot when your punters, the stadium itself is causing you to lose with the sunlight and the punter kicking it up into the little structure there up top. It's like, I don't think I've ever seen that before. I do not think I've ever seen the stadium cause them to play worse. It would cause the home team to play worse. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And of course, they made a ton of mistakes with a shit ton of penalties and a bunch of other things. But really, the real talking point is coming down to the very end of the game, where they did a quarterback sneak with the clock winding down basically to get in position. And they couldn't get the ball spiked in time, and they ran out of time, and that was it. It's like those are the Dallas Cowboys I know and love, where it's they talk all season about how great they are, how talented they are. They're gonna win the division. It's look, dude, the NFC East is terrible. Of course they're gonna win the division. Like I said, Eagles had no business being in the playoffs. Washington's terrible, and the Giants are the worst ones of the pack. And I'm saying this as a Giants fan. I don't know how we're that bad. And we're so bad, I'm I don't even know where to start. As far as the front office is where you start. We need a GM, we need new coach, we need, we're into Scorch City levels of bad here, where we need to when I heard that we've had the worst record in the NFL for the last 5 seasons, I'm that shouldn't be. We're the New York Giants. We've won 4 Super Bowls. We shouldn't be that bad. But in any case, Dallas, they always get into these positions where the media kisses their butt, they play mostly well, and then at the end of the season they choke. And they always wind up, and this has happened to them a few times as well, where it's oh, they look great up against the New York Giants, And it's like, oh, look how dominant they look against the Eagles. It's like, yeah, they suck. Put them up against a halfway competent team, and they don't play as well. And you saw that here. They did not play well at all, even though the score was close. San Francisco, I mean, the last 2 minutes gave me several heart attacks because it's like both teams are trying to give the game away. Because San Francisco should have won that game without Dallas ever getting the ball back at the end. It was ridiculous what was going on at the end. The clock management and the play calling at the end of that game from both teams was just mind-boggling to me. I was like, who is coaching these teams? It's unbelievable. But in any case, I think that Dallas always finds themselves in these positions, and I've talked about it before. And look, I hate Dallas with the passion of 1,000 burning suns. But I actually like Dak Prescott. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a very talented quarterback. I actually like him. And I've grown to like Tony Romo as a commentator. I hated him as a quarterback. I couldn't stand his stupid punchable face. Most punchable face in the history of Dallas quarterbacks. But as a commentator, I love him. I wish he'd call every game. He's the best one because he's one of the few that's not a flipping moron. It's like, when I think of the commentators in football today that I really enjoy, it's him and Al Michaels. And that's about it. It's like, can we get them to call a game together? I'd be down for that. Al Michaels, and I know it's different networks, but come on, let's make that happen. Al Michaels and Tony Romo calling a game would be great. And so it's like, I don't have like ill will towards Dak Prescott. And actually, the fact that he came back from that severe injury he suffered last season and played as well as he did, I think is a testament to him. And it's like, he is a very talented quarterback and a great choice to lead the Dallas Cowboys offense. I really do believe that, but it's just this mindset in Dallas where they always fall into the same trap where it's the media kisses their asses, they're going all the way, they're winning everything, here comes Big D, how about them boys? And then they shit the bed in December or January, and they're just flabbergasted. How did this happen? And it's like, guys, stop, and this is more a message to the media than it is to Dallas Cowboys. Stop putting the Dallas Cowboys up on a pedestal. This isn't the 1990s anymore. They're not that team anymore, and quite honestly, they should be considered an irrelevant franchise. And the only reason they're not is because they're constantly covered and constantly praised, and with the amount of attention they get, you would think they're one of the best teams in the NFL and have been since the turn of the century, and it's not true. The playoff success that they've had has been severely lacking. My team is irrelevant right now. The Giants are an irrelevant team now. They have sucked for the last 5-6 seasons. My team has at least won Super Bowls since the turn of the century. We've been to 3-1-2. That's pretty good. However, this is a what have you done for me lately type of game, and the Giants lately have been bad. So to me, they're irrelevant. But Dallas, the way people talk about them, especially in the media, you'd think that they had just won a Super Bowl last year, and it's not. They're so far removed from that success that I don't even know why we're still talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Let them get to an NFC Championship game, then we'll talk. Let them get to a Super Bowl, then we'll talk. Maybe because it's going. And here's the thing that blows my mind, and I'm prepared for it. Dallas is going to win another Super Bowl in my lifetime. It's going to happen. The problem is, when it happens, the media and all the fans are going to say, we told you so, we told you so. And I'm like, you said the exact same shit every year, and it wasn't wrong, and you just happened to be right this one time. And it's laughable. The Dallas Cowboys continue to be the most spectacular failures in football, and it's always like a banana peel that gets thrown in front of them by the media, by their fan base, and everything else. And it's remarkable. It's remarkable in a way. And it's like, and you know what? Next season, they're going to be the favorites to be the number one seed in the NFC. They're going to be the favorites in the power rankings. They're going to be the favorites to go all the way and be one of the top contenders to go to the Super Bowl. I just know this. I know this. Tampa Bay will be up there as well, but Tampa Bay won a Super Bowl last year, and it looks like they're in a pretty good position to make it back to the Super Bowl. Green Bay Packers are going to be in that position as well, but the Green Bay Packers have played exceptionally well with Aaron Rodgers, and it looks like, honestly, I think they're probably my favorites to make it to the Super Bowl. And it's been a while since Rodgers has been to the dance, but it's like Rodgers is the Rodgers era of the Packers have been consistently great, and they deserve that level of praise. Dallas Cowboys, they're at best a middle of the road team that dominates a terrible division, and come playoff time, they're going to shit the bed because that's them. So. That's my take on the matter. So I think I've rambled on just enough today. I will be back more with future videos. I do want to talk about the Royal Rumble when I get around to seeing that show. It's happening next weekend, so I'll probably see you first week of February, somewhere in that range. But that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell so you get notified when I post new videos. But until next time, I will see you all later.